Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. On the agenda tonight, we have the legend that is Dimebag Darrell, and this is going to be a performance when he was 18, so we're going back quite a way here, 1984, but let's get Dimebag up on screen and see how he gets on. I'm just going to jump in here. You can tell that Dimebag has absolutely got that technical ability and that natural propensity to just play so cleanly, play so fast, and all of the techniques that he's throwing in here, hammer-ons, pull-offs, alternate picking, absolutely spot on. And again, remember, he's only 18 here, so he's already at that super advanced level at such a young age. It's what you'll find is a lot of players, especially when they're young and they're shredding or they're attempting to shred, the synchronicity is not quite there between the left hand and the right hand, but Dimebag absolutely had that down. We know that he's a legend of metal guitar, and Pantera of course, but just the way that he plays, so fast, so impressive, but just technically so great, throwing together such great phrases. I know that he used to say, just practice a new thing every day, and you can certainly tell that in the way that he's playing. He's covered so many different styles, so many different techniques. I always say in other videos as well, the fact that no matter what the genre, you'll find that a lot of these techniques cross over. By no means write off metal guitarists the same way that some people who are into rock metal write off other players from other genres because the genres aren't cool or whatever, but the techniques are the same in exactly the same way that if you do listen to other genres and you don't like rock or metal, if you take all of the gain off the guitar, you will hear all those same techniques that will be prevalent in the genre that you do listen to. So don't write off any guitarist, especially when the technique is this good. And of course, this is around the time of Van Halen, George Lynch, I was mentioned, this era of 80s guitarists who were all into tapping, or at least Van Halen was the one that brought that onto the scene. But a lot of other guitarists were still tapping at the time and then maybe didn't get that pinned on as their technique like Van Halen did. But with this playing, you can see that Dimebag, he will actually start tapping, which we'll watch a little bit more of this performance. But all of these players around that time were so technically good and technically proficient. Every style that they were putting together on that fretboard, every technique, no matter what style they lent towards, whether it was hard rock, or metal or heavy metal, they all had that ability and that accuracy on the fretboard. And it was just such a unique time, the 1980s, for a real boom in technical guitarists and guys that were just all over it, all over that fretboard in terms of speed and expression. But let's get into a little bit more of this performance. just going to jump in here. The fact that he's absolutely all over it technically. You'll also hear a lot of dive bombs, and with this technique with the dive bombs, of course, if you've got a lot of overdrive on your guitar, a lot of distortion, it means you can hit those harmonics down at the bottom of the guitar, so that when you hear those really high pitched, almost like screams of the guitar, and then the dive bomb, that is just hitting a harmonic at the bottom of the guitar, and then using that Floyd Rose bridge, which then allows you to dive back down and come back up. And a lot of people asked in the comments how the tuning stays the same, whereas on a Floyd Rose you would generally have it locked in tune. So you'd have a locking nut where the nut is near the machine head, just underneath the headstock where the top of the strings are. That'll be locked in tune. So that's how these 80s guitarists get that dive bomb sound, is because their strings always pop up to that same place. What you'll find that if you were to do this without that lock on the strings, then the strings would just lose all their tension and they'd come up, and once they come back up, they won't get the same tension as they started with. They'd always come back slightly flat, and obviously it's going to vary from string to string which strings come back to close to pitch and which have actually lost more tension than others. And just a word about Dimebag, if you don't know his story, it's a shocking story, the fact that he got murdered on stage. And I remember hearing about it, I think it was 2002, where you can't believe it. You can't believe the story that you're seeing. Your stomach just drops. And it's, even to this day, it's one of those things that it doesn't really compute that you can be playing a gig and just doing what you love and putting on a show for people, and then somebody actually brings a gun to the show. And unfortunately, if you don't know the story, he was shot on the head, I don't know how many times, maybe 5 or 7 times on stage. It's an absolutely crazy story. I think it was an ex-Marine or some guy that, I'm not sure he was mentally all there, whether he'd been missing medication. And again, it's another story of a player being taken so early. I think this is the most disturbing story about losing a musician that I've heard, to actually be murdered on stage while you're playing, and to actually be in that environment. I think he actually killed other people as well. I think 3 people as well died, and staff members, and some people trying to jump in front of this madman with a gun. But yeah, really shocking story, and one of those ones that I don't even want to get into the shooter and what his name was. I think these people don't deserve any coverage and any remembrance of their name or anything. Just remember Dimebag and the fact that he was such a great guitarist, just taken too early, way too early from us for absolutely no reason. Just somebody who's just mental, just went to a gig, and for some reason we'll never understand why it happened. Playing at a gig, again, it wasn't a huge gig, it was like 250 people. Dimebag was one of those guys that he would just play for the music, he would just play any gig, he would play for the enjoyment of other people. And what a great player, what a great inspiration to guys to get out there. It's not about the big gigs, it's not about filling stadiums, it's about getting out there, playing your music, no matter who turns up, just playing for the love of it, and just playing for the people that want to hear your music. So Dimebag Darrell, what an amazing player. Probably the most metal guitarist there's been in everything. Just his technique, his image, and the show that he put on. And don't underestimate the amount of work that he put into his playing to get that technically proficient. And to be such a well-renowned guitarist for Pantera and just the whole genre in itself. Everyone in metal knows who Dimebag was. And he's just left a fantastic legacy. And just a great example of how to play metal and hard rock, and all of those techniques that are in there, really excelled in putting those all together. So thank you so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at. One of those that's tinged with sadness as well about his story, but keep those suggestions coming in the comments below and let me know what you guys think. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!